Vegeta, what's this guy say about his power level?
It's over 9,000! That's the line.
Brian Drummond! Brian Drummond. Yes.
For those French Canadians out there, but it's Drummond.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
Drummond will do just fine. Yeah. Wow, how is everybody? I'm glad anyone showed since I was such a late addition to this convention. But I'm glad to be out here. My first trip to Raleigh, so it's a blast.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You were already offered Bojangles, so you are like in the family now.
I was like, what's a Bojangles? And we don't have this.
You're going to learn, Brian.
I will learn. Yeah. I've seen people with these chicken strips everywhere. It looks good.
They're delicious. How's the weekend been so far?
Fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. It's been great. The fans are incredible. They're what make every convention, and that's what it's all about, right? It's about you guys and about everybody having a good time. I love having an opportunity to chat with people from different parts of North America as we travel and do some of these conventions. It's interesting just to hear the different perspectives on what people grew up watching me in, whether it was OG Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z, or whether it's Ryuk from Death Note, or people now that are watching me as Eggman in Sonic Prime, or saw me as Knuckles in Sonic Underground years ago, Venom, Wolverine, you name it. I've been around for a long time doing voices and still at it. So even when I get back to Vancouver after this convention, I'm straight into studio on Tuesday for some more shows. So
back to work,
Back to work. Crack the whip, get at it.
Well, we appreciate you doing that for us, I should say.
Thank
Let me
you.
ask, what was your first convention that you attended, whether as a guest or as a fan?
Wow. I never went to any conventions as a fan. I'm one of those older guys that there weren't really very many when I first started acting. I think there were just probably some Trekkie conventions happening back then, and I don't really remember one going through Vancouver. There might have been one when I was there, again, because this would have been early 90s when I started performing as an actor, and I didn't book my first voice gig, I think, until about 1994. But I never went to a convention except my first time as a guest. And I think it was quite a small one, probably run by an anime club. It was when they brought me in because I was playing Vegeta on this new show that was just taking off on Toonami. Everybody wanted to meet this character, and I was like, okay. They flew me to Boston and put me up, but it was kind of in a small hotel. There was maybe a couple hundred people that were the guests, mostly probably an anime club that put it together. And it was wild that some people were this interested. I was like, they're gonna actually pay to fly me there? They're gonna put me in a hotel, right? I don't think I made any money at the convention, but they flew me there. And I'm like, this sounds like a great thing. I've never been to Boston. And that was the very first one. And I think it might have been maybe 1999 or 2000, somewhere in around there. Was that a great year? Nice.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in there, and it was wild. I think the craziest thing, we were having just a lunch. I still remember to this day. It was on the first day of the convention. I think there were 2 short days, but it was on a Saturday, and it was towards the end of the day, and the promoters of the convention had invited us in, these promoters, I say, and they were students from a local college, I think, that put it together, and we were just having lunch in sort of a separate area from the main hall or the room that they had rented in the hotel. And there was a knock on the door, and the promoter talked to someone outside, and he said, oh, there's this young lady that just wanted to meet you. She has to leave now. She's only here briefly, but hasn't had a chance to meet you yet. And she's a fan of Dragon Ball Z. And I'm like, oh, sure, absolutely. I wouldn't want me to come all this way, and they didn't get a chance to say hi. And I came out of where I was having the lunch to talk to her, and she was shaking with, like, fear and crying to meet me. And I wanted to meet you so bad. I was like, what is going on? This is so bizarre. Like, nobody can be this into a show or a character. And they were already. Dragon Ball Z took off, just became an incredible show, and I've been working in animation ever since. I trained in theater school, like 88 through 1991 when I graduated, so I did theater as a young person out of theater school, film and television in Vancouver, smaller roles. There's a lot of things, a lot of sci-fi filmed in Vancouver, like back in the day, X-Files, Smallville, Battlestar Galactica, all those shows were shot there.
Trifecta.
Exactly. So I was filming, guest parts, like 1 day, 2 day, 3 day roles on all those kind of shows, but nothing really meaty, like really fun characters. I would play a lot. I didn't have a beard at the time, and I'd play FBI guys, cops, firemen, like all the same type of stuff, and mostly characters that didn't get interesting dialogue. It's like, well, we saw the perp go that way, and just random stuff to sort of keep the story moving on. And then this crazy industry started really growing in Vancouver, which was voiceover, and I told my agent to maybe I could read for some of these things. I don't know what it is, or like but I've trained as an actor. Maybe I could come up with some ideas for voices. And one of my very first auditions was for a show that some people may have heard here called Reboot. I don't know if everyone's heard of Reboot. It was the very first CG animated show ever on air, done by Mainframe Studios. I did not book a role on it. I was very upset. But I thought, I'm new, I didn't know how to do it. But my very next audition was for a wonderful director named Sue Blue. She directed all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. She's voiceover actress as well, just done fantastic stuff. And I booked a lead role on a series called G.I. Joe Extreme. I played this guy named Ballistic. And then my next audition after that was Vegeta for Dragon Ball Z. And I was like, I love this. I get to play characters. I get to play Super Saiyan alien characters. I get to play G.I. Joe. Now I get to play Knuckles. He's like an echidna, whatever that is. No, so I just got to do these crazy roles and have so much fun that by the early 2000s, I had sort of let theater and on-camera stuff fade away. And I've been just nonstop in voiceover ever since. Yeah, a real fun ride.
What a journey.
I know, it's been a blast, absolute blast.
And now we're in Raleigh.
Now we're in Raleigh, yeah.
At an amazing, like the inaugural Animate here in Raleigh.
Yeah, I know. I sometimes love doing the first ones that happen. I've done a couple of those last year, and they're great. It's kind of to sort of see how they turn out. They're not sometimes as crazy as the really intense ones that have 30,000 people or something. It's fun. I love it. Having a great time.
Keeping it cute.
Yeah.
So obviously these are like reunions. So who are some of your favorite fellow actors that you always love reuniting with at conventions?
Wow. Well, it's unfortunate they weren't able to come with this one to me, but like I said, I was a really short notice addition just because I was one of the most available right out of the holidays. But I have been traveling around last year doing quite a few shows. Some people might have seen me at Animate Columbus and we did a GalaxyCon in Austin with some of the guys from Death Note. So Alessandro Giuliani, who plays L, and Brad Swale, who plays Light, and myself, and even Shannon Chan Kent, who plays Misa on Death Note. So the four of us have been doing a number of conventions last year, and we have quite a few more of those coming up this year. We're in your neck of the woods, maybe. We're in Pensacon.
Far, but that's okay. Close enough.
Close enough.
Just
I'm not
8 hours
sure.
away.
Oh, only Florida. Right. It's a huge state. I should know. We're on this side of the continent. Right. That's all I know. We're there for a convention, all four of us, in mid-February. Yeah.
I know. I think I saw you guys went to. Was it Galaxy's Edge together? Was it Star Wars?
Oh yeah. We were just in L.A. and we had a free night after a signing at a toy place. All the Death Note guys. So we had to go to. We were all a bunch of Star Wars geeks. We're as terrible as the rest of you people. I have to bring a small bag to conventions so I don't take too much crap home, because I started bring a little bag, and you have no excuses for taking giant pieces of artwork and things home, because I have bins of art and pops and things, not just stuff I've been given, stuff I buy. So it's time to calm myself down and restrain myself.
What are some of your other fandoms outside of Star Wars?
Wow, outside of Star Wars. Well, let's see, fandoms, because I don't go to conventions and do that. I love all sci-fi. If there's any sci-fi that drives, myself and my wife are big sci-fi fans, so we'll watch anything we can kind of get our hands on. Last of Us is fabulous game, and I love the series. The new season is going to be shot in Vancouver. I know I'm not doing on-camera work anymore, but if there was any way I could be some nasty mushroom-going clicker, I would be one. Please, just put me in the background. I don't care.
Let's do it.
I saw Troy Baker at a con recently and was like, I don't know if you know anybody, but maybe he could put me onto the right guy. Please.
Hello. You'd make a wonderful mushroom
Exactly.
person.
I don't care what I look like. I'll just put me in a corner and I'll make noises. I would just twitch.
Perfect. I love it so much. Did some people have some questions? We can start going with some questions from y'all.
Yeah, any at all. Just fire away here. I've been around for a while, so I can answer about all kinds of shows. Unless you get really detailed, then my old mind will have forgotten.
Then you make it up.
Yeah, then we make it up.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's your name?
I'm Nick.
Hey, Nick.
I was wondering if you had any fun stories from recording Crypto the Superdog.
Ha! Crypto. The worst story is that we didn't get another season. Come on. Yeah, I played Streaky the Super Cat and Crypto the Superdog. And Sam Vincent was Crypto. That was such a great series to work on. whenever you get a chance to do a Marvel or DC property, it's amazing, and we hoped we got to do more of them. But Streaky was fun. I was very disappointed in the Super Pets movie that there was not a appearance by Streaky. Like, I mean, come on, like they could have made him just a random alley cat, put him in there somewhere. But fun stories. I don't know what I can think about on that one. We got to work with a young actor on that show who was always cracking up and having a good time. I've forgotten the name of the young boy who played the lead on the show. But Streaky was fun because it was, I usually play a lot of bad guys, so a lot of characters are deeper, Wolverines, Venoms. But Streaky was like way up here, really kind of a high, raspy voice, so it was out of my regular range, but it was a blast to be able to do. That was probably one of the different kind of characters I got to play. Nothing crazy happened in studio, though, that I recall.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
What's your name? What's your question?
Hi there, my name is Avery.
Hey, Avery.
Thank you for coming and being that late edition.
I'm happy to be here.
I had a lot of fun meeting you at the booth.
Thank you.
I know you mentioned that you really enjoyed being Zex because it recorded at the same time as Dragon Ball and you didn't have to yell as much.
Yeah, Zex Marquise and Gundam Wing, yeah.
But since there were still some very intense scenes with Zex, was there ever a time when you're like, okay, I get to be Zex today, I get to be oh, darn it.
Well, he had a few. There's a few scenes, yeah, where he does yell and it gets a little bit louder. But as we were talking about this at my table earlier, that I was doing Dragon Ball Z at the same time that I was doing recording on Gundam Wing, and everyone always sort of thinks, oh, it must be so cool when you get the call to do another episode of Dragon Ball Z. Not that cool, because it is one of those shows that you just go, oh God, it's going to be a hard day. And when we first started recording Dragon Ball Z, there were actually not rules within our union at that time. I'm from the Union of BC Performers, part of the Canadian Acting Union, sort of like SAG is in the US, it's the same in Canada. But you could record for an 8-hour day. They didn't have, now it's only 4 is the maximum, but you can imagine screaming and powering up like Vegeta for 8 hours. It is hard on your voice for 5 minutes, let alone an 8-hour day of it. So it's a mind-numbing show to work on. So if I get a call from my agent saying, yeah, you got a session on Wednesday for Dragon Ball Z, it wasn't usually a, woo, I got to try. It was usually like, you just shake your head and go, here we go, because you still got to put your best effort in. But the output on that show was just incredible, absolutely exhausting. So as I was telling Avery, when I heard you've got his Gundam Wing session, oh, thank God, because Zex Marquise, he was known as, they called him Sexy Zexy. He just kind of talked like this most of the time, pretty chill. But sometimes he did lose it a little bit. Those Gundams were getting on his nerves, and he lost his mind and broke his mask, and he would lose it a couple times, but not often. Most of the time, I could just converse in a regular version of my own voice, but even a little bit more chill and deep. So, good question. Thanks, Avery.
No, thank you.
What's your name?
Hello, my name is Sean. So you did a bunch of voices on Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dai, and kind of similar to Vegeta, like very intense voices, Flazard and Hadlar. So how did you save your voice, doing all those voices, intense voices all the time? And have you ever thought about doing something like Cameo with all the different voices that you do?
Good, great question. Yeah, thank you. Sean's talking about Dragon Quest, a game and now a series. We did 100 episodes of that series, and I hadn't been doing as much anime over the years. A lot more anime has moved to Texas area, Houston, a bit more probably being done in LA. We were doing a lot. Mid-90s through early 2000s, maybe even up to 2010, a mountain of anime was done in Vancouver. There's less of it done now. We still do a ton of what's called prelay, where you record before it's animated, like something like Sonic Prime is. We do the recording sessions and they animate it afterwards, but we do a bit less of it now. So when Dragon Quest came back and it was picked up by Ocean Studios, who did Dragon Ball Z back in the day, and they did Death Note, Gundam Wing, Monster Rancher, Gundam Seed, Gundam, everything, you name it. They did a pile of stuff back in the day. I was very excited to actually do something different and do an anime. And of course, I get the bad guys a lot, and I did with Hadlar and General Flazard, and these are deep voiced and lots of screaming, tons of fighting. But we're now have, I said, the union's a bit different. We have 4-hour sessions. They kind of take care of us a bit better. You have more opportunity to take breaks, you know, have a big old cup of tea there, relax a little bit. There wasn't quite the pressure. And now I've been voice acting for a lot longer than I was when I first started. And when I first started with Dragon Ball Z, it wasn't digital recording. It's all on tape. So it's much harder to kind of get it right and nail it. So we'd have to do way more takes to get a certain scene or line of dialogue correct. Now with digital, they can manipulate things a lot more, and it's just quicker and more seamless, and they don't worry about the mistakes as much. So you don't have to do the same line over and over as many times. So it's a little easier to do a big, tough, screamy role like that. Although Flazzard, as I did a voice record for you earlier today. He is a voice trasher, and he was a crazy one to do. Probably the roughest on my voice was him, especially in his fight sequences. He was pretty bad. You had another part of the question.
Oh, and I was just wondering if all the voices you've done over the years, have you ever thought about in terms of,
Cameo,
like,
yes.
Cameo?
I have been asked a couple times about Cameo, and I still haven't done it. I probably will. Everyone says I should, but I also know so many of the characters I have, and the most famous ones, are pretty intense stuff, like Vegeta with It's Over 9,000 and the power-ups. I'd get a lot of requests probably to yell this as this guy or that guy, this guy, that guy. And when I have lots of shows that I'm still currently on, recording during the weeks, I would really have to find the time to do those because they would probably wreck my voice. And if I get a call, yeah, you've got 200 cameos to do this weekend, or 50 of them even 2 of them would probably wreck my voice. Because when I do my characters, I'm all in. I don't kind of half-arse it. I usually put as much of my effort into it as I can just to make it cool. And I'd probably retake it and try and make it really good. And then I'd have a gig the next day, and they'd be, Brian, what happened to your voice? Sorry, I did 19 cameos last night. You know, and it's all gone, right? So it'll have to be, the timing will have to be right for it. Thanks.
Great question. Brian, do
Thank you.
people
Cheers.
do people still use like echinacea? Like, is that still a thing? Do you remember like
I think so, yeah. My mom always used to use that for if colds were coming on. I don't know if it's super great for like sore throats. I know there's something called slippery elm. I don't know if everyone has ever used that. That was something they used to make a sort of droplet for me. There's an Asian medicine called Nim Jom. It's kind of a syrupy stuff that can coat your throat when it's sore and makes it a lot easier. I usually tell people, for me, best way when your voice is trashed, and it's always yelling. I can do lots of character voices all over the place, but it's when you have to yell as any character, it trashes your voice. But I would just say the only way to heal when your voice is getting wrecked is rest and hydrate. So that's why I've got, lots of drinks for during a convention, and then you just have to stop talking. I'm a big hockey fan. I'm Canadian. Come on, what can I say? So if I go to a game and I'm screaming my guts out, really the only way and that's the same. If I'm just screaming in my own voice, it gets wrecked after a few hours. The only way to heal it up is you got to stop talking. And that's like talking like this. Not stop screaming, like just shut up. And if you stop for a couple of days, hydrate, it'll heal up pretty nicely.
God, love it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What's your name? What's your question?
I'm JV. Thanks for coming out.
Hey, JV.
All right. Quick question. So, what was your favorite scene when voicing Vegeta? And if you don't mind, can you give me a line?
Favorite scene, voicing Vegeta. It's pretty funny because I did it so long ago. It's really hard to remember scenes that, like I said, were our favorites because they were really difficult to do. I was a new, younger actor, and I'm screaming my guts out doing these shows, trying to make the takes right. I remember Vegeta being the first show and only show I ever lost my voice on twice, like lost. So at the end of the day of recording, even if I got through recording, I remember going out to dinner with friends after a recording session on Dragon Ball Z, and I just had to write my order and stuff down on paper. It was like, I can't even talk. It's like it was gone, like it's toast. And that was, "You Won't Escape My Wrath," that line of dialogue when he's going after Gohan.
Yep.
And he bursts out of the water and he just goes screaming after him.
God.
So that line, he's just losing his mind. But you can imagine what it sounds like when I do that line is pretty intense, but I might have had to do it 6 times to make it fit and to match the mouth flaps. Because sometimes we say our line at a different pace than the mouth is flapping, and it doesn't look good. So they'll say, "Oh, can we do it again, Brian? That was a great take, but I need a bigger pause before you say this part, or I need this to happen. And because we didn't record on digital back then, they couldn't just kind of shift it around and make it work sometimes. We had to just do it again, do it again, do it again. So sometimes you might hear a line that line was so epic. It might have been the 9th time I said it before I got it right. So it's pretty crazy. But the lines that tend to be my most favorite tend to be the ones that are the fans' most favorites, because they're the ones that they talk about the most. And the one that is talked about the most is the meme that came out of my mouth, not on purpose, but it's over 9,000. Many people have heard this one before, and it ends up on shirts, it ends up on everything. Who knows, and I'll do it, who knows what Nappa says to Vegeta in the original meme before Vegeta says that line? Who knows exactly what it says? You know exactly what he says?
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's hear it.
It's over 8,000.
No, that's not what he says.
That's
What
what
does
he's
he
supposed to say.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What does he say?
Hey Vegeta, what did you say his power level was?
It's really close. It's really close. He does say, hey, Vegeta. He goes, hey, Vegeta, what does the scouter say about his power level? So let's hear that from you since you got a mic. Hey, Vegeta, what does the scouter say about his power level?
It's over 8,000.
No, you do Vegeta.
You
do,
cue the line.
Do Nappa's line for me. Hey, Vegeta, what does the scouter say about his power level?
Hey, Vegeta, what's this guy say about his power level?
It's over 9,000! That's the line.
You're a meme. That's so cool.
It's a meme. It's a meme, and that's, of course, that's got to go down as one of my favorites. When I have shirts and hats that have it on it, I think it's pretty cool. It's very cool. Go ahead. Thank you, man. Good question.
Great
Let's
question.
move on.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And it should have been. It's over 8,000. Go ahead.
Hello. I just wanted to ask, you mentioned getting your start on sort of like TV shows and commercials. What sort of tips or like recommendations or advice you would give to someone who like wants to start, acting or voice acting?
Great question. Yeah, it's more of this is a very different world than when I started. Like, I couldn't just go to the internet and look up a show and find free classes or things that you can watch, or other actors that have books out there. Like, it just didn't exist. Like, how to be a voice actor. Being a voice actor wasn't even something I thought was a thing. In fact, when I first was acting on and doing voiceover, I was called in to audition for one of the voices in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the live-action series. There was a live-action series, where they're in the turtle suits and everything, that was filmed in Vancouver, but they also wanted to do the voices there. And I was brought in to audition for one of the voices, so I had my first call, and that's when they bring you in. You don't do it at home. And I was asked to do this voice, and the guy said, yeah, we're not sure what we want to do for him, but he's a little bit more like Chandler from Friends. Rest in peace. And I didn't have a TV. So I was like, so I got a call back for it, but that's what they told me. Make him a little bit more like Chandler from Friends. He's kind of a smart ass. I'm like, okay, but I didn't know I knew what Friends was, but I didn't know which guy Chandler was. I didn't know what he sounded like. It's not something I could I'll go to the internet, look up Chandler from Friends best scenes. I went to Blockbuster Video, tried to find copies of Friends, take them home, forward to the parts, and when somebody says the guy's name, oh, he's Chandler. Like, okay, now I know he's the one, and find bits where he's doing his lines certain ways. That's a very different way to learn how to be a voice actor than now, where you can literally hear every accent from around the world. You can hear every voice actor from around the world, every type of performance, the people that get cast. You can find it all online for free. Yeah. Like, not $1. I would just study all that information that's out there. D. Bradley Baker, who's one of the best voice actors around, he has a great website called iwannabeavoiceactor.com. You've probably heard people mention this one before. He answers so many questions in it about starting off, about jumping in. But to me, the main thing I would always tell people, it starts with acting, not with the voice. Yeah. I know some people have come up to my table and ask about voice acting, and it might be some guy with some huge voice, and it just sounds incredible. And someone says, yes, somebody told me I should be a voice actor because I got this certain voice. I'm like, yeah, you do have an incredible voice. But since you have that, that's great. But to be a voice actor, you really want someone to say, you're an incredible actor. You should do voice stuff as well. Because you can come up with other voices, but it's about being a good actor that comes up with good voices, not just having a good voice, but not really understanding acting. acting part comes first. And if you can learn how to do that, whether it's in theater school or whether it's in online training, or whether it's in voiceover schools, whether it's just some of the training that's available that's free online. Some people do books that are available. There's so much available to train at little to no cost than when I spent thousands of dollars to go to theater school. That's what I would look into. It can be done, and nowadays voiceover work can be done from your home. It used to be the only way you could be on a show, you had to live in Toronto, Vancouver, LA, New York maybe, and then you would be called into the studio to record their show. Now you can almost be anywhere and sometimes get on a show. And if you put together a nice little studio, which isn't $10,000 like it used to be, now someone can have a great studio in their own house for $500 or less and sound really good. We found this out through COVID for a lot of people that had to work at home. The opportunity is there for anybody now, as long as you put the effort in to train yourself to come up with good voices and understand acting.
Thank
Thanks,
you
man.
so much.
You're welcome.
Yes, Echinacea does still work.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Shout out Echinacea. I was also going to say, Brian, I feel like this is also like a great opportunity for people to network like through conventions and stuff too. You know, there's writers, directors.
Oh,
and
without question.
Just like being here, you're
Yeah,
already on your way,
being
you
at the
know?
cons and even ask these kind of questions. It's a great place to just get information, is at these places. Stuff that didn't exist, like I said, when I started. If I started now, I feel like I'd be 10 years ahead of when I did start. The only tricky thing now that I think is missing that I had, and I was talking about this with some of the other LA actors, some people that are in the green room downstairs, that I wish wasn't going away, and it's kind of going away, and I think it will be to the detriment of performers now, is we don't get to act in a room with other performers as much as we used to. It used to be the only way you would do a show, not dubbing, because you do dubbing one actor at a time, but prelay shows like Sonic, like the Lego shows, like all these Warner Brothers shows. You did those as a group of actors in a room together. And when I did my first show, G.I. Joe Extreme, with Sue Blue, this great director from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, all these other actors that were in the room with me who have done a bunch of other stuff before, Matt Hill, Scott McNeil, Gary Chalk, guys that have done tons of roles. I was just sitting there watching them. Oh, you can do that? Oh, that's cool. Oh, he's making weird noises. Oh, like you were learning so much in the room. Now, with a lot of people just recording on their own at home, you're not seeing all those other things that I was able to see in the room with everybody. That is what the part that's missing a little bit, that I kind of hope they find a way to keep it as much as they can, but they're sort of pulling us out of the studio for lots of shows.
I've done panels where literally they've met each other sitting next to each other, like at
Absolutely, and that will be very common for dubbing, because you record by yourself. But in LA and lots of cities, I only just started in the past few months getting back into the room with other performers and working on shows together. And man, did I miss it over the past 2-3 years, because you learn so much from other performers. But I had that opportunity for 30 years already. The newest actors, and I know some that have been acting in voiceover for 3 years now that have never been in a room with anyone, ever. They just do all their stuff from home, and they've never acted off of another performer. And acting really is not just, acting to me is reacting. It's like, what did they give me? Oh, that's the way you said that line? Now I'm gonna say my line like this because of how it came from another person. So that's a bit of what's missing. Sorry, man, go ahead, fire away there.
Right. Hey, thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
So when you came up with Ryuk's laugh,
Yeah.
were there character notes, or did you base it off of kind of like what the...
Yeah, that was a while. When I went in for the character Ryuk on Death Note, I wasn't even asked to audition for Ryuk. I didn't even know that character existed. Lots of times when you get sent your sides, and sides are just some lines of dialogue from the show. I was sent sides for Light's dad, some of the other FBI guys, some random characters, but I knew they were just all humans. So I'm like, oh, this must be some random anime that's got a bunch of humans in it. So, and I'd been doing Dragon Ball Z, all these other crazy shows. So Monster Rancher, which I'm like a talking wolf, like all these crazy shows. But I did this, so I'm like, oh, okay, so just kind of be myself. This must be really realism type show. I went into the audition, and when you show up at the studio, they had the pictures on the walls of those characters. They just didn't want to send them to us in email format in case we disseminated it, and they don't want the show to get out before it's cast. So I showed up and I saw, okay, well, there's Light's dad, cool. There's that guy, oh, there's Light and Elle, that's what they look like. Oh, I'm like, whoa, who's the demon in it? What's the demon-looking dude? I saw a picture of this. I was like, that must be the bad guy. That's got to be I love playing the bad guy. So I went into my audition for my other characters, and I told the director,
The picture of the creepy-looking psycho demon guy. That's got to be the bad guy. Can I read for him? I didn't get sent those sides, but can I just come up with an idea for that guy? And the director was friends with me, so he was like, oh, yeah, I guess we can read you for him. But first, all he told me was, and I had like 5 minutes to come up with a voice. He didn't send me home to work on it. He said, go sit in the green room, come up with something, and come back and do it. He gave me the side. He said, well, first off, he's not the bad guy. He actually is, he's not. He's not the good guy, he's not the bad guy, so don't play him like a villain. Secondly, he does have kind of a creepy laugh. So if you can come up with something with that, great. So I just looked to the sides. I had to come up with something really quickly. And to me, he looks like a kind of a wizened up smoker because his face is pale. He's missing his nose. And so I wanted to give him, and he looked older. So I just wanted to give him kind of a gravelly, husky, smoker kind of sound. And then he said he's got a funny laugh. It's different, so come up with an idea. So I thought a laugh that sounded like it starts like a cough might be interesting. So I just did a, and so his laugh was always started like a cough. So I started that, made him sound older, and I didn't get any of the other parts I auditioned for, but I got Ryuk.
That's right. He's also like Chandler from Friends.
He's
too,
also like Chandler.
surprisingly.
Surprisingly, yes.
Great question. What's
Hi.
your name?
My name is Charles.
Hey, Charles. Good to see you again.
He said, good seeing you again.
Thank you.
What's your question, Charles?
How did you come up with a voice for Vegeta?
How did I come up with the voice for Vegeta? That's one of the funnest things about being a voice actor. We get something sent to us by our agents. So a show comes to town that wants to voice dub or do their new show. Sometimes it's new, sometimes it's dubbing. And they send these lines from the show to the agent, and I have an agent who tells me where to go, and he sends them to me. And on those lines from the show, there's a character description. No picture. I did not see a picture for Vegeta. So I thought he was an alien, and you know why I thought he was an alien? Because that was in his character description. It says, small, diminutive alien from another planet, so because he's alien, extremely powerful. He's also a prince. He's egotistical. He's a maniac, psycho killer. So I'm like, whoa, alien, prince, killer, bad guy. I didn't know he looked like a human. I didn't know that at all, but I was like, okay, but I still decided, well, if I'm gonna give him kind of a princely voice, but they said he was small, because he's not as big as some of the other guys, right? Vegeta's kind of short in stature compared to some of the other big guys like Piccolo and Nappa. He looks, especially when he's standing by Nappa, he looks tiny. So I pitched my voice up a little. I thought, okay, he's smaller, maybe I'll give him a little higher voice, but he also needs to sound princely, because he's a prince, but he's also extremely evil when he first appears in Dragon Ball Z. So I decided to give him a higher pitched voice, but with a princely air and evil, like he wanted to kill that clown Kakarot. So that was the original sound for my voice, which was pitched quite a bit higher. When Chris Sabat took over the voice, I think he had to start that way because he voice matched me to get the role, so he was quite close to that, but I'm not sure if maybe that was a little harder on his voice to do because Chris's voice naturally sits deeper than mine, so he kind of moved it over time so that it became a bit deeper. So Vegeta now sort of has that Kakarot, you clown. He's got a bit of a lower tone and a rasp to it, but still sounds princely and arrogant and powerful. But we come up with our ideas for the show by the little description they give us on a piece of paper. I love it if there's a picture too, because then I make a different choice sometimes. But if there's no picture, I have to guess.
Great
Good question. Thank you.
Do you think Vegeta's voice would have been different had you had seen the picture?
It might have been. Yeah, it might have been. I'm not sure if I might have made him a little bit deeper, but I knew there were lots of different roles. I knew it said Nappa was the big guy, and I thought, and he was partnered with him early on, though I probably auditioned for Nappa as well, I don't know. I probably thought, well, I'll give Nappa, he's the big, huge guy. I'll give Nappa like a deep voice, and Vegeta more of a, like he's the leader, and Nappa's his weak sidekick, right? So I would give him the higher voice, and if I auditioned for Nappa too, I probably gave him a lower voice. I probably auditioned for a lot of roles on the show. I just can't remember because I got Vegeta, so I forgot about the rest. What are you gonna do?
Booked it.
Booked it. Thank
Great
you.
question. All right, we have a couple minutes left. Let's do these final 2 questions.
Hey, yeah, let's hear yours.
You can grab the mic out, whatever is easiest for
Yeah,
you.
you can pull it out of there and hold on to it like you're a rock star. There you go.
What's your name?
Janie,
Hey, Janie.
how young were you when you first started theater?
Theater, when I first started theater, how young was I? Probably about your age, I would think. I think I did my very first theatrical production was in grade 7, I think. And I believe it was a Christmas show. I can't remember, though, if I think it was Christmas Carol that we were doing, and I don't think I even had a great part. I was probably like a townsperson or something.
There's no such thing as small
Yes,
parts.
no such thing, small parts, just small actors. So I was probably about your age, but I didn't know that acting was something I wanted. When I was in grade 10, you guys might call that sophomore. What do you guys call that here? Yeah, but I called it, we call it grade 10 where I was. I took a theater class. It was one of the first times you're allowed to pick sort of, we called them electives. You didn't just have to take math and science and other things. You got to pick some extra stuff. And I picked, theater sounded cool. I was actually a band guy. I played trumpet for 10 years in all kinds of, played in jazz bands. I really thought I was gonna do more of that. But I thought, theater might be kind of fun. And I loved it. The teacher was so cool. The class was so fun. But then in grade 11 and 12, they cut the theater program from the high school, which made me so angry. I didn't know what I was going to do when I graduated from high school. But I had a friend in the band who was doing a summer theater program with some friends, and they auditioned 10 people for this fun show, this fun theatrical show. They needed 9 actors for this. They auditioned 10. I was the one guy who didn't get a part. I was that terrible. But one guy had to drop out in the summer because something happened, and the director called me up to take over for him, and I knocked it out of the park. I don't know why, but I did a great job. I did 2 more shows with them, and then the woman who would have taught theater in grade 11 and 12, who lost her job because they dropped the theater class, she saw me in one of the productions and said, you should audition for this theater school in Vancouver, British Columbia. It's not where I was. I was in a small town. I grew up on a thoroughbred racehorse ranch. I was not a big city kid. I rode horses and scooped up horse poop and did all that kind of stuff. That was a yeehaw. That was me. But she told me, you should, and so someone believed in me. She said, you should audition for it. It's one of the best theater schools in all of Canada. You should audition for it. I auditioned with 500 other people from across Canada that auditioned in all these different cities. I drove to Vancouver, auditioned, and myself and 15 other actors were chosen to start in 1988. And I got picked to be one of the performers to start in that school. And it was because someone believed in me and said, you should do it, you're really good. I never thought I would, though, so a lot of it is kind of luck, but
it's also nice having teachers that believe in you.
yeah,
and
someone who
encourage
sees you and
to-
says, you know what, she thought you should do this. And sometimes if you yourself ever see somebody that you think they're great at something and you go, you know what, you should do that. If you love that, you should do it. And she knew I loved it and convinced me. I didn't even think it could be a job. I'm like, could I make money acting? I didn't know it was a thing. I was a farm kid. I didn't think anything of it. And here I am.
Brian, I think you should be a voice actor.
Okay,
I
yeah,
believe
thank
in
you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Thank you. Sometimes we still need that even when we've been doing it for a long time.
You got this. All right, our final question.
Yeah,
What's your name?
let's do it.
Hi, my name is Carla.
Hi,
you
Carla.
doing?
Good to see you again.
We talked about this earlier about Black Lagoon. Was there any other animes that you hope to bring back, even though they continued in the mangas?
Any other animes other than like Black Lagoon was a cool series. It continued in the manga, but we haven't done more of the series yet. Such a wild, fun ride that was. Any other ones that I would hope would continue? Yeah, that's a great question. Every single show I ever work on as an actor, I hope continues. That's the life of an actor. We're always like, please God, let there be a season 2 of this. Let there be a season 3. We always want to be working, and lots of times we fall in love with shows. Dragon Ball Z, it was unfortunate for me when the show moved from Vancouver and that was picked up in Dallas. When the show changed voices. But I was on lots of other shows, so it didn't bother me too much at the time. I'm trying to think of manga that I would have liked to have, a role I would have liked to have continued. I really liked, I don't know if anybody remembers the show Vision of Escaflowne, if anyone remembers that series. I loved doing that show. I played Alan Shazar on that show, and that was a role I liked as well. It was very, very fun. I did a series also called Nana. I don't know if anyone knows that one. That's a manga-based series too. Then I played a character named Yasu, who was the drummer in the band on that show. That was really fun. Some shows are just kind of dubbing-wise are fun to work on, but you never know if they're gonna. I don't read as much of the manga, so I don't know how far the shows go. But we always want to do more, and those are a couple that I can think of off the top of my head, especially Black Lagoon. Yes, Black Lagoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Brian, I really think you got something here.
Yeah, you think I can do this?
I think you can
Think I
do
should
it.
keep on with it? Okay.
I hope so.
Good, because I'm booked on Tuesday when I get home to do some work. So.
Fabulous. I love it. I love it. Before we wrap it up, any final things you want to leave us with here today?
Final things to well, let's see if anyone's watching Sonic Prime. I think they just released the first episode of season 3 last night on YouTube, and the rest is going to come out on Netflix very soon. You got to watch that. Anybody can follow me. I'm attempting to do this young person Instagram and stuff, and I'm Brian Drummond VO. That's me, Brian Drummond VO. Say hi there, and you can always fire me questions and thoughts as well. I try to do my best to respond to things like that. And also, there's a great season that we're working called Ninjago. I don't know if anyone knows Ninjago, Dragons Rising. I play a great character named Roz, a bad guy. As well, most people don't know, I play a little sweet dragon, baby dragon named Ryu on that show, who's hilarious as well. So those are a couple series I'm working on right now that are a blast if you get a chance to watch. And for those who haven't, I think it's on Hulu. One of the questions came earlier about Dragon Quest. It's a really fun 100-episode series if you get a chance to get on it. And if you liked any Dragon Ball Z and that type of stuff that I've done in the past and my voice on some of those things, you'll hear tones of that type of fighting and incredible rage on Dragon Quest with some roles I play, Hadlar and General Flazard, as well as a couple others. Go see it. Check it out. Wonderful to be here. What a great response in Raleigh. My first visit. I'm loving it. I hope the sun comes back out. It looks like it has. Yes!
Because of you.
Yoo-hoo! Thank you.
Thank you so much. And go visit him at his booth, guys.
Yeah,
Just
come
in
see
case
me
you-
downstairs. I'm here all weekend till 8 tonight, and I'll be here all day tomorrow. It's been great to be here. Thanks so much, everyone.
Brian Drummond, everybody!